This is a Gatoroid. A Gatoroid is one of the many species you can roleplay as in my upcoming Florida Man RPG. The pre-launch GoFundMe is still up. We're in the home stretch, folks. A couple of more weeks, we're going to be launching this Kickstarter. But if you want to get in on the ground floor, you can go to the GoFundMe pre-launch and donate to that. You do that, you'll get your name printed on a special thank you page in the book. Plus, you'll get access to the Discord, which will give you a chance to provide feedback or suggestions. I mean, look at that guy. Can't get much cooler than that. If you're watching this on TikTok or Instagram, the link is in my bio. Otherwise, it's in the description. Thank you to all who have contributed and will contribute. Let's make this thing happen. Hey, you know what this is?
And for those who are still out there paying attention, our good friend PuffyCheetoh still needs help. She posted this into Discord, so if you can help, go out and help. And we're back tonight, everybody. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. I am your host. This is Rogue Bard Advice, a D&D TTRPG nerdcast podcast, where we talk about everything. You guys send me questions, and I try to answer them. I want to welcome everybody in the chat. Let's see, Bacon, the Pirate Wife, Ruby, Ron, Kirk, Yukai, Kevin. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in, welcome in. Jim, welcome in. Saw you in there, too. Oh, tonight's a night, guys. Tonight is definitely a night. We have quite a few questions to get through tonight, and we have our discussion tonight. Plus, we have our Deadly Dungeon. And I think you guys will be surprised with that. So, let's get started. Our first question of the evening comes from Kirk. And Kirk asks, would it be inappropriate cultural appropriation if I wore a pirate costume for Halloween? If so, can I make things right by, say, boarding a cruise ship and plundering all its doubloons? Well, Kirk, I do have an answer for you for this. And it's actually quite a good answer. While pirates have existed in all forms of mannerisms, they are not relegated to one particular race, group, culture, anybody can be a pirate, which means wearing a pirate costume for Halloween is generally not considered cultural appropriation. However, boarding a cruise ship and plundering its doubloons, that might be considered real piracy, and it's less socially acceptable and more of a federal offense. They don't take kindly to the Pirates Code. But yeah. So, no need to go full Blackbeard at the buffet line. Just wear your pirate costume and be like me. Be a pirate. Is an appropriation a piratey thing to do anyway? Absolutely, Kevin. Absolutely. What is mine is mine, is what is yours is mine. I'm appropriating your stuff. Also, everybody, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and if somebody, Bacon, wants to put up the Discord, join our Discord. If you haven't already joined, you get neat behind-the-scenes access to Rogue Bard Advice and the fun and the shenanigans that we have over in our Discord. Plus, you can vote in our weekly polls. So, Kirk has subscribed and liked. Thank you for that, Kirk. And Kirk says, okay, if he's used up all his big punctuation marks, you all got to carry the rest of this. Okay. Cool. So, Kirk, I hope you got a great answer out of that. It was a good question. It was actually a good question. Our next question, actually, not a question. It's deities and character alignment. See, Kirk, I didn't go with equipment and gear. I went with deities and character alignments. Haha. Let's talk about the evolution of the deities and character alignments from OD&D all the way up to 5e and 2024 rules. As you guys know, this is a series that we have started to do where we discuss the evolution of D&D from its inception till what we have now, to see what has changed and to see why people like certain editions more than others, and so that you guys can effectively create good characters. By the time this whole series ends, I hope that you guys could create good, viable characters to RP with, and not just roll math rocks and fight a monster and loot the dungeon. So, with that being said, we're going to go to the big screen for this, because I don't need to be on the little screen for this. The deities, alignments, and evolution impacted your deity choice when creating your character. Now, you can choose any deity, though there are some who have to choose specific deities. Let's talk about OD&D first. OD&D in 1974, characters would only choose out of 3 character alignments: lawful, neutral, or chaotic. And that idea was drawn from Poole Anderson's fantasy fiction, where civilization was law and wild magic was chaos. With that, you had the pantheons of the world of Greyhawk, which was OD&D all the way up to, OD&D. And you had the Flan Pantheon, the Sewell Pantheon, Odearian Pantheon, the Backloonish Pantheon, the Dwarvish Pantheon. Elven, Gnomish, Halfling, Orc, Goblinoid, Demon Lords, and Archdevils all had their own pantheons. With that, your major deities of Greyhawk were Bokub, Celestian, Elana, Farlagan, Heronius, Hexor Cord, Moradin, Nurul, Obadai, Oladarma, Pelor, Flotus, Procan, Rouse, Saint Cuthbert, Vecna, and Wiyas. Pretty much all the same deities you had all the way up till 3.5, or 5e, actually. When OD&D went to AD&D, I'm too far. I went up too far. AD&D in 1978, they added good versus evil axes to create a 9-cell grid. Therefore, you had lawful neutral, lawful good, lawful evil, chaotic neutral, full neutral, chaotic neutral, chaotic good, and chaotic evil, and then neutral good, neutral, and neutral evil. So, and you still had the same deities, the gods, everything else. But what happened was alignment now dictated your spell access, your saving throw modifiers, and your class abilities. Paladins had to be lawful good. And it even influenced monsters' behaviors. So, what's going on in the chat? Let's see. Nothing's going on in the chat yet of them. So, we're going to move on. When D&D moved to 2nd edition, they kept the 9 alignments and doubled down on enforcement. Paladins lost class features if they fell from their requirement alignment step. That means if a paladin's lawful good. If a paladin did something that was not lawful good, they started to lose points. Thus, They would change alignments, and if they went too far from their lawful good alignment, they lost their ability to be a paladin, which led to things like the Blackguard prestige class, or the Fallen Paladin prestige class, or I know there's another one, but lawful good is boring. Lawful good is boring. I will second that, dear. But yeah, so it changed your character the more you didn't follow your alignment. 3.5 or 3 and 3.5 from 2000 to 2003, the grid remained the same. The 9 grid remained the same, but the alignment gained a new role as a prerequisite for prestige classes, feats, and certain epic level powers, cementing it as a pillar of character creation build design. Like what I say, you had prerequisites in 3 and 3.5 that were any, like, you could be any lawful evil, or any lawful good, or any lawful, or any good, or any chaotic. There's also sub-requirements there for certain prestige classes that you had to start off with an alignment and lose an alignment in order to become the new prestige class. Kevin says playing lawful good full tilt is actually insanely funny since no one is like that in real life. Also, when did the Uber deity AO show up? AO? Well, I'm glad you asked me that, because I did see that in my research here. Let me scroll down. AO came into Forgotten Realms deities. Over God of Cosmic Order, full neutral. When the Forgotten Realms added their deities, you got Al, Bane, Bathsheba, Shanti, Cyric, Denier, Eldath, Gond, Helm, Ilmater, Kelmivor, Lathander, Lyra, and then Llyra, Lovitar, Malar, Mask, Miliki, Milili, Mistra, Ogma, Saloon, Shar, Sylvanus, Soon, Tolona, Talos, Tempest, Torm, Tyr, Timora, Umberly, and Wowkeen. Now, choosing a deity, choosing a god, went along with some races had certain gods and deities that they could only choose from. Certain classes had a deity that favored them over the others. So choosing that as your deity ultimately would help you. Though anymore, deities weren't used in that sort of way. I believe there are still characters that use their deities or their deity as part of their character build. Paladins, clerics, monks, the more religious aspected characters. A wizard could pray to any deity that was a magic deity, and a rogue could pray to any deity that was a roguish deity. Like, let's see, Bathsheba. Bathsheba is the deity of misfortunes and accidents. Perfect for a rogue who's wanting to be chaotic evil. Or let's see, Gond. Gond is a neutral deity of craft. So perfect for goblins, or what's the other one that what's the other race that creates or crafts things? Halflings could do that. Their craft and innovation. Paladins, though this one's a lawful neutral. Helm was a guardian and was the deity of guardians and vigilance. Gnomes, that's right, Kevin. Thank you, gnomes. Sometimes a god does choose you. Warlocks, for example, the god chooses you, and therefore you have to make a pact with that god. But as we moved forward past 3, past 3 and 3.5, we get into D&D 5th edition. The 9 alignment model survives, but nearly all the mechanical enforcement vanishes. Alignment is now almost entirely a role-playing guide with only a handful of magic items and class features referencing it. They nerfed deities, and it was sad when they nerfed deities because now you don't get any of the bonuses. You don't get any of the... It's merely role playing at this point. I go pray to Mystara. I go pray to Bokub, but there's nothing you get out of it as a character. And in D&D 2024 rules, their alignment definition stayed identical to 5e, but WotC removed all race-based alignment defaults. No more orcs are chaotic evil. So now you could have an orc that was lawful good. Or you could have a, let's see, a drow as neutral good or chaotic good, or, yeah, it turned everything topsy-turvy because apparently people wanted to play races, but they wanted to be like chaotic good or lawful good or lawful neutral, but their race itself had that requirement that they had to be this. Some 3/5 healing and protection spells have extra bonuses if you follow the same deity as the caster. Yes, they did. Yes, they did, Yokai. Absolutely. Absolutely. Which is why 3/5 is the GOAT of all D&D play styles. After they started taking and nerfing things, while it got a little easier to play, they took a lot of the role play aspect out of things. They took a lot of actual play out of things. Now it's just rolling the dice. Whatever the dice says, do I hit? Do I not? Hey, it is what it is. And maybe that's great if you're playing a board game. But you're playing a tabletop role-playing game. There should be more aspects of role-playing to the game than just kicking down the door, fighting a monster, looting a treasure. I've always said, if you want a game like that, Steven Jackson games, go play Munchkin. That's it. All you have to do is go to 10 points, and all you do is kick down a door, fight a monster, loot the treasure. Steven Jackson games. And I'm not getting paid for that, but I love Steven Jackson games. Steven Jackson came up with GURPS, which is a great system. It's still a D20 system, but it's still a great system. Moving forward, the early editions, like we were saying, how alignment guides the deity selection. Early editions, AD&D 1E, 2E, 3E, clerics and paladins had to remain within one alignment step of their deity or lose spells and class feature. Thus, that's what I was explaining earlier, they're lawful good. They do things that aren't lawful good, they start moving alignments. If they do enough that's not lawful good, they could move all the way to the end of the spectrum and now be classified lawful evil and lose spells, lose ability, lose the ability to pray to their god and get those bonuses. Now, there are ways to continue to move back into the lawful good, but you've got to do more good stuff than you do evil stuff. Kevin says paladins in 5e are essentially charisma eldritch knights. Deities in alignment don't matter according to WotC on that. It's lame. Paladins should fiercely follow their king. Fantasy paladin, their deity. Absolutely. That's how I play. I mean, that's how anybody that I played with plays. But again, we all play 3-5. Ron's like, the Plan Pantheon in Roger Zelazny's Isle of the Dead would be fun. The god chooses you and acts through you. Yeah? The pirate winch wife says, can elves switch their deities? Anybody can switch their deities. It's just what bonuses you get from what deity. I mean, as a homebrew, if you start following one deity and that deity is not working for you and you want to give up that deity and start praying to somebody else, you could follow along the lines. For instance, a rogue. Okay, as a rogue, I would follow. Let's see here. Let's see. I know I saw one in here was the Mask, chaotic neutral. I would follow Mask. He's the deity of shadows and thieves, right? But say I had a paladin who was following Oladamara. It's also a chaotic neutral deity, but that deity is the deity of revels and trickery, perfect for a rogue. Or Hextor, lawful evil. If a paladin were to fall from lawful good all the way down to lawful evil, they could change their deity. Now, that's not saying that an elf couldn't be a paladin. Elves absolutely could be a paladin. And therefore, when you fall from one alignment to another, you have the option to either do good things and get back into your deity's good graces, or forego your deity and choose a new one. The first elves who worship Lolth used to worship other Corellian Larinthian. Yes, and that Corellian didn't show up until Forgotten Realms. I think Forgotten Realms 2. I don't know why I wasn't in this one, but any of the deities that are in the 3-5 player's handbook for when you're choosing deities and alignments are pretty much the same deities that they've had since A&D 1E. So, any of them. As a DM, I'm the patron for the Warlock NPC the party adopted. Okay, that's interesting. You could absolutely do that. That's perfect. Ron says, elves strive to be deities. That's how they became liches. Yes. As a player, I always put my DM as my deity. Okay. But yeah, so that's it for gods and deities and alignments. There it is. AD of first edition, 1978-79. Corellian Larinthian, chaotic good, elves, art, and magic. And these are the ones everybody knows. Bokob, Pelor, Moradin, Corellian Larinthian, Yandala, Grumish, Heronius, Hextor, Oladamara, Vecna, and Wias. Yeah, as a sorcerer or a wizard, I would always follow, even though I was chaotic good, I would always follow Weejas. And that's Weejas. Lawful neutral, the god of magic and death. Though I wouldn't mind playing a neutral evil character. And I guess I would have to be a warlock at this point, or a necromancer, because Vecna would be a great god to have as a deity. Kurt once played an atheist character. It quickly became evident he would have to be delusional because evidence of the existence of gods was so obvious. It was fun. Nice. Leroy Jenkins. Yes. Oh. But yeah. So, and here's the race associations. Dwarves typically worship Moradin or Dumathion. Elves followed Corellian, Lebelis, Inoreth, or Sehane. Halflings revered Yandala or Averine. Orcs centered on Grumish, Lilnivel, or Vaprak. And then your class restrictions. Clerics had to choose one of these gods, spell access, and turning undead tied to their deity's ethos. And paladins required lawful good deities, Pelor, Heronius, or Rao. And that was in AD&D 1E. AD&D 2E, 89. Your core Pantheon pretty much stayed the same. Actually, no, a Malunator or Lathander, neutral good, Dawn and Renewal. Shanti, Mistra, Agma, Saloon, Shar, Talos, Tamora, Torm, Tyr, Ilmater, and Kelmavor were all introduced. Your regional pantheons for regions like Isis, Osiris, Horus Ray, Set. Actually, the region is the Maharandi. They followed Isis, Osiris, Horus Ray, Set. Basically, all of your Egyptian deities and gods. Rashimi followed Uthgar and Engrad. And Cholton followed Ubtao and the Rashaman Pantheon. Your race associations, dwarves clung to Moradin and now Clangin Silverbeard. Elves followed Corellian, Lebelis, or Hanali Selenil. And humans were split between the Forgotten Realms pantheons by region. Gnomes followed Garl, Glittergold, Halflings, Yandala, Orcs, Grumish. Class restrictions: clerics must remain with one deity or within one alignment, one step of their deities, or lose spells. Paladins were bound to lawful good deities, Ilmater, Torm, Tyr, and forfeited class features if they strayed. 3rd edition and 3.5. Pelor, Asmodeus, Behemoth, Tiamat, Ehelana, Pelor, Lathander. Your race associations, Dragonborns were introduced in 3E and 3.5 as a race, and they had to follow either Behemoth or Tiamat. Tieflings and demons were included as playable character races, and they followed Asmodeus or Demogorgon. And Druids and Rangers followed Sylvanus, Miliki, and Obadiah. Class mechanics were finally introduced. Clerics chose a divine domain tied to a deity's portfolio to mechanically enforce alignment and deity synergy. Paladins, Oath of Devotion, mirrors the lawful good deities. And Warlocks forged pacts with specific fiendish or fey patrons. 5th edition, it, like we said, went straight into freaking role-playing. The role-playing aspect of it, clerics picked domains of life, light, trickery, war, knowledge, nature, arcana, etc. Paladins, sacred oath tenets echo a deity's ethos, but there was no mechanical must-follow alignment step. So paladins could follow any deity as long as they followed that deity's sacred oath. Druids, the circle replaced the worship circle of Savannus, Obadiah, or simply the land. Circle of spores, circle of something. What else? What else was a circle? And warlocks, the patrons now included archfey, fiends, celestials, decoupling from the classic gods. In 2024, with the 2024 rules, the deities are referenced only narratively. No exhaustive list in the PHB, which, in my opinion, is not the point of the PHB, but alignment still exists, but with no race-based deities, so any race could follow any deity now. Race, class, impact. Clerics choose their domain at 3rd level. It's more narrative, not mechanical. Restrictions on on deities and domain fit. And paladins and other divine classes were free from strict alignment or deity prerequisites. Faith becomes purely roleplay. Yeah, they extremely nerfed the deities and alignments. But and nobody really plays with deities or alignments unless you're of a cleric, a paladin, a monk, a warlock. So it's not really, you don't really lose anything unless you're one of those 4 characters or a character that got bonuses and had skills tied to their deity and stuff like that. And it was a great system. And look, the system's still out there. You could still play 3.5. Yes, 5e and the 2024 and even D&D 1 is where everything's going towards, because it's making it easier for new players to get involved. It's not gatekeeping anything anymore. And it just makes money. And that's where WotC went for it. CVS robocall system is annoying. I think it's some evil alignment. Probably. Kirk. No, we had that one already. Well, that's it for alignments and deities. Our third question of the evening. This comes from a Chris. And Chris asks, Avast ye mateys, it be Friday. Remember first mate Chris beyond the shore, always watchful. This is not me. This is a different Chris. So, with the 2024 update, orcs have been updated to adopt a new social status. It seems that orcs have adopted a Hispanic Mexican type bound. What does that mean about other races? If CanCon says orcs are Hispanic, what would the other races exhibit? Well, Chris, as you might expect, I had to dig deep for this one because I don't play 2024 rules. I haven't even looked at the 2024 rules yet. I don't have any 2024 rule books. So, the direct answer that I found is the Hispanic Mexican vibe for orcs in the 2024 update isn't a declaration that the orcs are real world Mexicans or Hispanics, but that this particular orc subculture draws on charro hats, desert ranching, and folk motifs inspired by the Mexican tradition. By the same design logic, you'll see other species reframed through distinct cultural palettes. Other races might be coded. Dwarves, you could code as a Norse-Scottish race. Rugged mountain clans, rune-inscribed armor, tartan-inspired kilts. Elves, East Asian or Celtic. Sleek silks and calligraphy scrolls, echoes the Japanese and Gaelic courts. Halflings, rural English or Shire. Thatched cottages, green rolling hills, village fairs, and more with Morris dancers. Gnomes, Central European folk, clockwork contraptions with Bavarian lederhosen or alpine motifs. Tieflings, and this is where tieflings, Afro-diasporic or Caribbean, Bright colors, rhythmic drumming, carnival flair and horns and patterns and all sorts of stuff. Dragonborn, Imperial China or Mesoamerica. Jade scale armor, dragon mask, temple-like architecture in statuary. And humans were pan-Eurasian fusion, medieval European knights, Ottoman traders, Silk Road merchants. Why this matters? It matters for world-building depth, player expression, and avoiding stereotypes. For that one, the challenge is to borrow aesthetic cues without reducing cultures to caricatures. Thoughtful lore and NPCs with varied motivations keep the world feeling authentic. Player expression, your orc player favorite might adopt Choro garb and spice cuisine. Another elf PC might weave paper lantern festivals into her backstory. And then with the world building depth, you can assign a cultural lens to each species to help dissolve the old good versus evil by species trope and give them lived in richness. That was a lot. So, but yeah, there's an answer there for you. I don't know if it's a good answer. I hope you got something out of it, Chris. But your next question for next week, I will answer because that question revolves around the food and what foods these new coded races their cuisines, their delicacy cuisines, what they bring to the table, so to speak. Kevin says, I think a good DM creates their own cultures for their world, but is a lot of work. Yeah, it is a lot of work. Creatures of Light and Darkness had an agnostic priest. Cool. That's cool. But, Chris, I hope that question was good for you because it was good for the rest of the class. And all ogres are Scottish, Ron. All ogres are Scottish. And all ogres are Scottish. And they sound like Mike Myers. Moving on. Question 4. I'm sorry. What would you give each D&D race as a defining cuisine? Is the next question. Well, let's go into it. If the orcs were culinary inspiration was Mexican or Hispanic, signature dishes could be tacos al pastor. Let's go to the big screen for this. Mole verde, grilled chili rubbed meats. Dwarves, they're Scottish and Norse. Stout braised lamb stew, smoked salmon on oat cakes, and barley ale. High elves, East Asian, Japanese. Sushi rolls, miso soup, and matcha tea. Wood elves, Celtic, Irish, Scottish. Wild mushroom stew, soda bread, berry wine. Halflings, the rural English or the Shire. Meat pies, roasted root vegetables, ale-baked bread. Gnomes, this is all making me hungry, people. Gnomes, Central European, German, Austrian. Bratwurst with sauerkraut, pretzels, apple strudel. Tieflings, Caribbean or Afro-diasporic cuisine, jerk chicken, plantain fritters, rum punch, the stuff that comes out of Caribbean, stuff that a pirate like me would like. Dragonborns from Imperial China or Mesoamerica, Peking duck, mole poblano, and corn tamales. That's interesting. They share similar palate tastes with the orcs. And humans, the pan-Eurasian fusion. Kofta kebabs, vegetable curry, pasta primavera. Basically, they want the pan-Eurasian fusion to be like the Mediterranean. Bringing it to your table for a dwarven feast, you could serve hearty stews in stone bowls with tankards of ale on the side. Elven banquets work best as a multi-course tasting menu. Think delicate sashimi followed by green tea ceremonies. Orcish cookouts lean into spicy marinades and communal taco bars where each warrior forges their own filling. And if you're more interested in following along with adding D&D inspired dishes to your own life, then you can consult the Heroes Feast, which is the official D&D cookbook for in-world recipes and conversation tips. You can use these cuisines to inspire tavern names, regional festivals, and NPC backstories. Experiment by fusing two racist dishes into Borderlands, an elf-orc fusion taco with pickled force berries, perhaps. But yeah, potatoes, boil them, mash them, put them in a stew, absolutely potatoes. Yes, but only high elves eat sushi, Kirk. The wood elves eat mushroom stew. Elves don't have to be vegan. I mean, wood elves sound very vegan, but the East Asian Japanese high elves, maybe not. Is that what he hears, yokai? No, this is Chris's question. This is Chris's second part of his question. Yokai does have a question on the list, though, and it will be after our Deadly Dungeon, because her question will lead us into chat, because I think it's a very important question to have more of your involvement. Chat. Moving right along. I hope that gave you a good, quick answer there, Chris. I think it's 5. It is 5. And this question comes from Kirk. Again. Kirk says, I'm an old grognard gamer. One of my prized possessions is a set of the original D&D rulebooks, which I played when I were new back in the 1970s, along with some of the painted minis I used when I'm playing back in those days. See, you had painted minis at one point in time. I have seriously considered being buried with these things. However, those original minis have a high lead content, so high that oxidated lead has colored the insides of the box I keep them in dark gray. My question is this: would it be reckless of me to be buried with those minis, seeing as how they might be a toxic risk for any future archaeologist who might dig up my remains? That's a long question, Kirk. And I did include the picture you put in the Discord of your first edition rulebooks and your minis, and they look absolutely phenomenal. However, this is what I will tell you. I will tell you two things. As an archaeologist, as an anthropologist, finding a grave site with this in it would absolutely be fabulous. However, the caveat of that is you can't be buried in a cemetery. And if you aren't buried in a cemetery, you probably wouldn't be found for like 3,000 years. I mean, how long did it take us to find Tutankhamun's crypt, or pyramid and resting place and everything like that? The third thing about that is digging up human remains, specifically to dig up human remains, is kind of against the law here in the United States. Not so much anywhere else in the world. So long as, well, I don't know if they're so long as they're old enough to be, but we were finding human remains when I was on my excavation in Italy. So, but here in the States, if you're on an excavation and you find a set of human remains, you got to stop. And then you got to call the authorities, and then you got to call the shippo, and then you got to call the tribe, or call the tribe before you call the shippo if you're on tribal lands. So it's a long, drawn-out process. Now, if you do, and I absolutely think you should, if you do buffering, yeah. Sorry, guys. It's this internet. Hey, we're back again. We're back. But as I was saying, the reason that we as archaeologists have found things like written scrolls, well, I mean, we have scrolls, but we can't read them because they're so brittle that if you try to unroll them, they would just fall apart in your hands. That's why the Dead Sea Scrolls are still in salt water. Like, if you find something that is in water, you have to leave it in water, the same water that you excavate it from, or else it starts to degrade immediately. Find something that's hermetically sealed, put your books in it, and when and if you were ever important enough to be excavated and they find this, all that stuff goes into a museum, and all of it is readable, and all of it is all of this. As for the lead minis, it's only toxic if you ingest it, right? I mean, we dig up lead things all the time. We excavate lead things all the time. I mean, a lot of metals from like World War II excavations still in Europe still have high contents of lead in them. And if you, as an archaeologist, do it correctly and with all the right preparations and tools, it'll be fine. So I think you have an answer there. Get buried with your minis and get buried with your books. So I hope that answered your question, Kirk. It was a 2-pager. Imagine that. Our next question, and our final question before we get into our deadly dungeon, comes from Ruby, actually. And I thank you for this question, Ruby, because it was quite interesting. Hi, Pirate. So after last week's episode, I started thinking about a few different things people were talking about. Number one, having watched both an all-female campaign and an all-male run by the same DM, Rob, from VLDL, the females did take it more seriously and remembered what skills, fears they had. 2 of the females were pretty much noobs. The males had to be reminded with tons of hints on what would work best in the scenario. Rob, the DM, commented that he did prefer the female campaign because it was more relaxing. So, for the DMs in the crowd, this is a chat question. How true is this? Well, Ruby, as a DM myself, I can tell you, and as a player, I can tell you that it's not gender-based. I have played numerous campaigns with an all-male crew where we had 1 or 2 individuals constantly taking notes on what's going on with their character. Now, is it few and far between? Absolutely, because most people just want to do what I said earlier: kick down the door, fight a monster, loot the treasure. They don't want to RP. They don't want to keep up with their skills, keep up with their spells, keep up with their fears, keep up with what's going on with them. And sometimes, as a DM, if you are playing that type of campaign where you're putting restrictions or fears or hindrances on your characters and they're not paying attention, then you can absolutely use that to adversely affect your character or their characters later on. So that's from me. What does the chat say? Ron says absolutely 100%. Okay. And Kirk's still responding to his question. And outside of a cemetery, so I can be dug up in the future. Maybe. I mean, if you get dug in a random spot and nobody knows you're there, you absolutely have a chance of being unearthed. So, Kirkwagger said, not 100% gender-based in my experience, but there are trends. Females more often take notes and more often seek role-playing, non-combat methods. Male players often need campaign rails and combat. Absolutely. Males get together in a campaign and you can follow Leonard Snart's 4 rules. Make the plan, execute the plan, expect the plan to go off the rails, throw away the plan. Because once the group gets together and the DM isn't prepared, if the DM's not prepared for it, the DM has lost all control over the game. All control over the game. And it's not the DM's job to control the game 100%, but it is the DM's job to to control aspects of the game. It's the characters and the player's job to drive the campaign. You just put them on the track. Now, there are things that a DM can do to move the campaign along in a certain direction, kind of like a conductor on a railroad. Thus, we get the term railroading. Forcing your players to go a different route. Like, you tell them that you're in a dungeon and there's 5 doors and they can choose any door. And you're getting short on time and they choose door B. And you say, okay, you go through the door and the tunnel ends, the tunnel then ends. There's nothing there. They turn around and they start choosing every other door and irritating the DM because they're not choosing the door that they should be. They're not looking for the clues in the room. So, therefore, you have to, as a DM, do things like, can't get through that door is locked. That door has a magic lock on it. You can't bust through that door. Okay, you could rip the door down, orc, and walk through, but now you're in a pit because that's a fire pit that you just walked into. That's railroading them into going a certain direction. While some people don't like it, sometimes you have to take the reins and roll with it. Welcome in, Crimson Honda. The lid. Absolutely. One of the doors could be a mimic. You could force them to fight a creature if they don't go through the door that you want them to go through. Absolutely. Make them fight that mimic. With that being said, Ruby, I hope you got at least an answer from me. We'll throw this question up back in the Discord and we'll see what answers we get from the Discord, because this question is actually a pretty good question. So, and I know people are typing in and everything else, but we're rolling forward because I did something and you guys did something and surprised me. But let's see what you guys did. All right. Our deadly dungeon for this week was the IRA, the Irish Republican Army, or crocodiles. Who wins? Now, I had thought that a group of Irishmen fighting a group of crocodiles, that the crocodiles would absolutely take anything down. I mean, you get a big 20-foot long croc, there ain't much that can not knock a crocodile out. Now, granted, the IRA has guns and stuff like that, but crocodiles have thick, scaly skins. They live in the waters. I mean, if you ever seen Crocodile Dundee, I mean, they could snatch things from the shore and drag them in. Well, let's see. The Irish Republican Army, as we know, primary weapons, the AR-18, the AK-47, Browning pistol, fragmentation grenades. They use IEDs, pipe bombs, booby-trapped tripwires. Though I don't know that a tripwire, a gator, or a crocodile would affect a tripwire. Flak jackets, urban camouflage, night vision optics. Yeah, they can see in the dark, but so can crocodiles. Urban and semi-urban ambush tactics, high mobility, rapid hit and run strikes, terrain manipulation via explosives, and choke point control. Though, again, I don't see where a group of crocodiles would be in a choke point. So, crocs don't have guns and bombs. Yes. I know this. Kevin says, I like combat if other players are actually read on their turns, but I actually usually roleplay and try to avoid combat since most of my characters would want to avoid it for various reasons. That's a absolute astute take on that, Kevin. Crocodiles don't have blind raging drunkenness. True, but doesn't that make them more dangerous? I mean, the IRA, you get a blind raging drunk who's stumbling near the shoreline, and up comes a croc, bites your leg, brings you under, does a gator roll, pins you to the bottom of the lake or body of water or whatnot. You're dead. Kirk says maybe it's that no one survives when they find out crocs have guns and bombs. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. But let's see. The species and unit, crocodiles, a pack of 4 adult Nile or saltwater crocodiles. Now, I can tell you this. Crocs don't stay in packs of 4. You at least can guarantee that in a small body of water, there's only one croc. There's only one. However, you get into a lake or a river, a large lake or a large river, there is one lake in Africa that is quite literally called Gator Lake or Crocodile Lake or whatever it is. That's what it's called by the locals. There are 50,000 crocodiles in this lake. 50,000. It's a huge lake. And I only know that because the boys on Top Gear, or the Grand Tour, their last episode, was their second Botswana tour. Right? They redid their very first Grand Tour. And not the Grand Tour on the Grand Tour, but their very first Grand Tour when they were on Top Gear. So, oh, there's plenty of fish for those Crocs. There's plenty of fish. I mean, people fish on that lake, and it's not a lake that's surrounded by land. It's not a landlocked lake. There is avenues to other rivers and tributaries and stuff like that. But yeah, what happens though is that you guys in the Discord have chosen the IRA to beat the crocodiles 86% versus 14%. Now, I will tell you, I didn't end the poll. The poll is still going on, I think, but there's no way that crocodiles could come back from that. So I put this score up there, right there. I will tell you this, I was the only one who voted for crocodiles. The other 6 of you voted for the IRA. So congratulations on that. The simulation also said the IRA. But that says IRA versus Mozart. I didn't change that from Mozart to crocodiles. So if the IRA fought Mozart, it'd be 60% over 40%. But the IRA fights crocodiles, it's still 60% over 40%. Yeah, EGAD's sim shows Mozart. Yep. Did the Crocs lose so bad that Mozart swooped in to save them? Probably. Yes, Kevin. Matter of fact, you want to know that. Let's go to that. What's the lake in Africa with 50,000 crocodiles? The lake with a population of 50,000 crocodiles is Lake Turkana, also known as Jade Sea in Kenya. But there's another one. There's the killer crocodiles of Lake Victoria. Is one of African Great Lakes. You have Lake Victoria, the second largest freshwater lake in the world by area. Lake Tanganyika, the world's second largest freshwater lake by volume and depth. Yeah, Lake Victoria is the lake that is between Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and Rwanda. Lake Kyoga is also a large lake. Lake Meru. All of these lakes are interconnected somehow. So, yep, that's the lake, Lake Victoria. So, with that being said, our bracket now looks like this. Now, I did something on this bracket. I want to see if you guys can see it. They accomplished the campaign much more completely than the males. I started to wonder why it was taking so long to finish the campaign. Yeah. So, this is our bracket going forward. Now, I did something. and it didn't show up on this one. It did not show up on this one. Damn it. It'll be on the next week's, though. It will definitely be on the next week's, though. We have Ultron moving forward, not forward into round 2, but this is what I did. I combined the Green Ranger and Bender, and this should say the Green Ranger Benderzord. We have Tommy Oliver as the Green Ranger piloting a giant Bender Megazord. Beethoven and Mozart. I don't know what you guys want me to do here, because one of these two is moving over to here, or they play a symphony together over whoever's here. The IRA has moved forward, but next week, you know what? I'm going to put this up in the poll, or up in the Discord. You guys choose which battle you guys want to see next week. Actually, you know what? I have to put it up in the chat here. So by the end of the evening, you guys put in the chat which battle you guys want to see next week. Then that'll be the battle that I put up in the Discord. How's that grab you? You got the Thieves Guild versus Azathoth. I still got to change that because it's Thoth. Azathoth. Thoth. Beethoven and Mozart. Do we want to have a round 2 to see who chooses who? And then move forward? And then we got the Green Ranger Benderzord versus Ultron. Some cheater swooped in and made Mozart win, but I think he should have backing harmonies from Beethoven. Benderzord versus Ultron needs to be last. Other than that, I'm not concerned. Okay, so Kirk says this one will be the last one of this round. So of these two, Thieves Guild and Azathoth, and Beethoven versus Mozart, you guys in the chat. Now, or did I do something for next week? Oh, I did. I had it already set up for the Green Ranger, Benderzord, and Ultron for next week, but that can change. I am not pinned down to that, but I like how I did this. I actually combined the two pictures. So, but with that, we're going to Yokai's question, and Yokai's question will lead us into chat because it is a chat-centric question, which is why I left it for after the Deadly Dungeon. Yokai's question is, hi, this doesn't have anything to do with gaming, but what do y'all do when you'd had a crap week? Honestly, this week's been horrible, and I would like to hear others' coping mechanisms for getting their minds off the bad stuff. Thanks, Yokai Lover. Well, Yokai, first of all, I want to say I'm sorry that you had a horrible, no good, very bad week. And a lot of people come here as a coping mechanism for getting their minds off the bad stuff of the week. It's kind of why I created this. Well, not created it, but kept it going. Because it is a way for everybody to decompress. It is a fun thing to do. And it takes your mind off the doldrums of the week. Though painting minis would take the doldrums off your week. Sending me questions would take the doldrums off of a bad week, because now you're engaging and doing other things. Or watch this pod. Yep, Crimson Honda plays D&D with his family, or watches this pod. Ruby blasts music very loudly and dance like nobody is watching. Very Grey's Anatomy of you. I know Kirk annoys me with memes of anything that's on the Discord, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Thank you for those, Kirk. And Paint Your Minis. Ron Walks the Dog. Much older than Grace. Well, I was trying to give you a little something, Ruby. So, Kevin likes watching this stream. There's alcohol, but that's not a healthy coping mechanism. No, that's not a healthy coping mechanism. Kirk generates music using Sono AI. Regular Saturday D&D and every other Sunday with second D&D group. Dream of mini painting. Sleeps because obviously when I send out messages on the Discord, I interrupt Kirk's midday naps. So, with that being said, we are in Chat, and we would like to always start off Chat with good things of the week. And I know Yukai probably had a bad week, and probably her good thing of the week is that she made it to the end of the week. But if there is a good thing of the week out there for Yokai, let us know. Kirk gets naps. He's Kevin's envious. Yeah, well, if Kirk naps everywhere, then that's not napping, that's narcolepsy. Yukai tries to escape into the fandoms, but it's still hard to focus on stuff. Yeah, it can be. It can be. Ruby, it was a coping mechanism for my no-name diagnosed health issue. Ah. Kirk dreams of narcolepsy while napping. Yeah. Kirk. What are we going to do with you, Kirk? And my coping mechanism for the bad things of the week is to do this pod because you guys bring me so much joy in the questions you ask me answering them, me giving you information that you may know, and maybe all of this is just refreshers for you guys. But it absolutely brings me up when I have a podcast to do. The days when I can't do a podcast, yeah, I'm a little down, I'm a little disappointed, but it is what it is. With that being said, I also have news. And the news is this. On the 20th of November, this office here in Gainesville, the office that I'm working at currently, will be my last day in that office, in that building. On the 21st, we all have to move to Lake Mary, which is in North Orlando. So, that 21st is a Friday. I don't know if there will be a podcast that Friday. Because I don't know where I'll be. I don't know if I'm going to be in a hotel. I don't know if I'll have an apartment already. I'm on the list for a new apartment down there in Lake Mary, but it's a waiting list. So, by the way, did I change the number of this podcast? If not, I will go in and change it. I don't think I did. Yeah, I did. I did. Okay. So, with that being said, there are a couple of things that are actually coming up. November is going to be a very slow week or a slow month for the pods. And that is only because November 7th, I have a procedure being done. And it starts at 7 and goes for 4 hours. It's 4 hours in a chair, and I will be getting another tattoo. That's the only day the guy had available, so that's that. So 7 to 10, and while it is here in Gainesville, we may start the pod a little late, or we may not do a pod that Friday. The next Friday is the day before I have to fly out to North Carolina for Saturday. So while I would love to do a podcast that Friday, if we do a podcast that Friday, it's going to be a short one because I would like to get some sleep because the plane leaves, the one and only plane, leaves at like 6:34. So I got to be at the airport by like 4 o'clock. So if we do a podcast, I won't sleep. So I'll probably do my podcast and then head to the airport or something. You guys don't worry on pods. You totally understand life happens. And I appreciate that, Yokai. Now, what I could do is I could record the podcast and just have it as a video, and while it be no interaction from chat, it really wouldn't be a podcast then. Jim's good thing of the week. One dog had successful surgery. Now it's just the recuperation. That's not fun. No, it's not. Congrats on the anniversary, Ruby and Ron. Yes, 32 years yesterday. Absolutely. Congratulations, you two. Now, the pirate wife and my anniversary is the 10th. So, and we will be 17. So we're halfway there, Ruby. Halfway there, Ron. Bacon's going to be questionable that day too, and the week after, just because I don't know what my internet situation will be. Well, Bacon, you know what? You actually have one up on everybody else from the 15th. Well, from the night of the 14th to the day of the 15th, because you will actually get to see me live and in person. And I'm so excited because I've got a can of soup for you. And I will be bringing it. Jim and his wife celebrated 32 years this past June. Congratulations. Yes. Yes, congratulations. Ron's reposting a night in the Lonesome October nightly readings from last year on the Discord. That's wonderful, Ron. That's wonderful. But yeah, so November is kind of looking like it's going to be a squash month. Because while I would love to do a podcast the next Friday after the 21st, that's Thanksgiving. And I doubt everybody, unless everybody gets around to the TV or the computer and watches this, I doubt anybody's going to want to do a podcast on a major holiday when family's around. Spend time with your families. I won't be doing the podcast on Thanksgiving. So the next podcast day will be after Thanksgiving. So probably we'll say the whole month of November is a squash month. First Friday in December then will be the next podcast day. But we still have 3 podcasts this week. Well, not 3 podcasts this week. At least 3 podcasts this month. Maybe we do a super secret, spicy, well, not spicy, but super secret Halloween episode or something. I don't know. I was buffering again. Oh, I hate this internet. I will be glad to get out of here, and hopefully the new apartment down in Lake Mary has better internet. Because you guys do not deserve that. And I am sorry for the buffering. But with that being said, that is coming to the end of our show. And I would like to take this time to continue to thank you guys for everything that you guys do. Everything that you guys support me. It's phenomenal. Please don't forget to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, share this podcast out with your friends who you think would appreciate a evening with friends every Friday night. And don't forget to send your questions to roguebardadvice.com. It's like Bard Dadvice that's gone rogue. Just remember, it's put rogue in front of Bard Advice at gmail.com. Send me your questions, send me comments, send me anything. Let's talk about things. With that, I want to wish everybody a great weekend. And as always, take what you want, give nothing back. And I will see you next week. Same rogue time, same rogue channel.